Ladies and gentlemen, today I'd like to show you the new high-class model by W6. This is the W6N8000. It's a sewing machine with 504 stitch programs. These include 3 different lettering designs with upper and lowercase letters. Then, for the first time at W6 WERTARBEIT, we have a color display. This really makes the operation of the machine much easier, and you also have a real-time stitch preview, where you can really see exactly what you'll be sewing. This means that the stitch is displayed on the screen with length and width setting that you have made. The machine can also be converted to an embroidery machine. However, the embroidery unit must be separately purchased. In addition, we have chosen triple LED lighting this time, so that the working space is really bright and you can see clearly what you are sewing. The machine is equipped with an adjustable presser foot pressure. This means that you can adjust the sewing pressure to a lower level when sewing with thin stretch fabrics and higher when sewing buttonholes in thick fabrics. A quilting extension table is included in the scope of delivery and also a hard case. This is the first W6 WERTARBEIT machine with a hard case. All these items are included, with the exception of the embroidery table, of course. You need to purchase that. In order to use the machine, you must first wind the bobbin and then thread the machine. Place the thread spool on the spool pin and fix it with a spool stopper. Really press down until it's firm. Now you have to thread the bobbin winder. Start here. All the important points are marked with numbers. This is number 1. I'll get up so you can see better. Around here and behind this metal hook. Next is the tension. Let's take a look. This is the tension for winding. In this context, I have an urgent recommendation. Hold your thread with both hands and firmly pull it in so that it engages in the tension discs. This is important. Then you need to place the bobbin on the bobbin winder. Wind the thread around 1, 2, 3 times and guide it under this metal hook, like this, just under here, and pull it to the right. When you now firmly pull the thread, the bobbin winder cuts it off. Now press the winder to the right. You see, the display already indicates the symbol for winding, and now you only need to press the foot pedal. Here we go. The bobbin is loaded with thread. It's important that the thread is wound up really nice and tight. If you find that your thread is loose, it's probably not completely clamped by the tension discs. This is very important. Please don't continue in this case. As it looks here now, it's perfectly fine. That's the way it has to be. I continue winding. The bobbin gets fuller and fuller. The wound-up thread presses the stop lever out, and when the bobbin is full, the winder stops automatically. See, you hear a beep. That means the bobbin is full and the machine has finished the process. I'll release the foot pedal now. Now I need some scissors. Simply move the bobbin winder back to the left, pull off the bobbin and cut the thread. Next you have to place the bobbin into the bobbin case. Now I want to show you something. We won't go through the entire help menu. I'll just briefly show you the help function on the color display. Now, when you press the question mark button, the display shows you various processes, winding, inserting the bobbin and so on. When you press one of them, you see, there's an illustration telling you what to do. As I said, I'm not going to go through all that. You can watch those instructions at home. That's not a problem. Now, to be able to insert the bobbin, you need to open the bobbin cover. To do this, pull the black knob to the right, the bobbin cover pops up and you can remove it. Please hold the bobbin with your left hand so the thread hangs down on the left side. Drop the bobbin into the case. Now, down here is the quick threading unit. The thread goes under the hook. Hold the bobbin with your right hand. The thread must always be taut, otherwise it doesn't properly snap in between the tension discs. Pull it around here, pull it really tight so you feel the resistance, and then at the end to the right and down. The thread is already cut here. Close the cover. There's no need to bring the bobbin thread up. The machine does that automatically. Now let's continue with the upper thread. For threading, please use both hands. Pull off a length of thread and tauten it. We'll start here at 1, really pull it in there, around the back to number 2, then 3, and always keep it taut. Go down to 4, back to 5, and down the last channel. So above the needle is one more clamp. Hook the thread in there. The next thing we need is the automatic threader. You just press this lever and bring it down. Now for threading the needle, it's important that the needle is in the right position. For that, press the needle function button once for the needle to go down. Then again for the needle to go up. This makes sure that your needle is in the correct position. Now bring down the threader and engage it. With the needle in the right position, you make sure that you won't break the threader. Hook the thread behind this little hook, pull it over to the right and between these two arms and up. Now back here we have another gadget. You can hook the thread in there and cut it at the same time. Can you see this little grey lever here? The thread must go in there. This is what it should look like. It's hooked in here and the threader will now pull it through the eye of the needle. Push the threader down and there, we're threaded. There's the loop in the back. Now maybe your eyesight is somewhat impaired and you have difficulty seeing the thread and the needle. For that purpose we've equipped the machine with a magnifying glass. Just attach the magnifying glass and when you look through it, everything is enlarged and gives you better orientation. Of course this is optional, you don't need to use it. Please remove the magnifying glass again for sewing. Now this is a sewing machine with a color display. Let's set the stitches. There are several options. The stitches that you frequently need are the pre-programmed here in the quick selection bar. That means when you need straight stitch with the needle in the center, use the second button from above. It always works. What does the machine display? On the left it's the real-time preview. This means you can see exactly what the stitch will look like later. Here you can adjust the length. Here you can set the width via minus and plus buttons. I can tell the machine to do automatic backstitching, or you can tell it to backstitch and cut off the threads. Up here you see the required presser foot. Look, it indicates presser foot A. And the presser foot has an A marked on it, so you can always compare that. The very first seam I want to show you is a straight stitch, and I want to use the free arm of the machine for sewing a trouser leg. This is my jeans leg, and I want to demonstrate how much power this machine has by sewing over a flat felt seam. So first just pull off the slide-on table. Place the jeans leg over it. The machine has a preset stitch length of 2.5. Do me a favor and increase that to at least 3. I'll take 4 now. 4 is fine, but definitely don't try with 2.5. And take it easy at first, don't go full speed. This is our stepless speed selector. Just take the speed down a bit and then you can start sewing. Then nothing can go wrong and you won't have any issues with broken needles or something like that. Look, it eases through like a hot knife through butter. No rattling or wobbling. It just sews right through to the end. When you've reached the end of your seam, you can stop and you can select the automatic thread cutter. That is, the machine cuts the thread for you. Both ends of the thread are under the fabric. No need to bring the threads to the wrong side of the fabric or anything. You see, both threads are here. The next thing we want to do, the machine is capable of automatic backstitching. How do you get out of the screen? Simply press the return button. That always gets you back. And here, this is the home button. The home button always gets you back to the home screen. Up here you can select your utility stitches. In the next field you can access decorative stitches and letters. This is the memory. That's the question mark. Through that you access the help and instructions menu. And here you can adjust a few settings. For example, you can switch the beep on or off, and you can set whether you are using a twin needle. Let's go back. I choose my regular program and I also want the machine to do backstitch automatically. That's program number 3. Since this is a touch screen, just tap it. Please use your finger or a touch pen for tapping. Never use any sharp objects such as scissors or the like. Foot down. If you raise the foot, this button becomes red and nothing happens. When you press the foot pedal, an error message is displayed. The machine beeps and here it says, "Don't do that." So, lower the foot. The button turns green and you can start sewing. The machine sews 4 stitches forward, then it sews 4 stitches back, and then it starts sewing straight ahead. That's not a problem. At the moment it's going very slowly, because I've set a low speed. You can always adjust the speed as you go. Now it runs really fast. If you reach the end or a tricky section, press this button. This is the turtle button. Then the machine slows down. If you press it again, the machine will speed up again. Now, when you want it to backstitch, just press this button, backstitching. The machine does that by itself. She sews back 4 stitches and forward again. Then it stops. Cut the threads. In this case, I have to do that manually. But you can also program the machine to automatically cut the threads. The machine always does the same number of backstitching stitches and the seam looks really neat. Let's continue. Exit this menu. The next thing we want to sew is stretch fabric. For stretch, we use number 5, the oblique straight stitch. I've got some really nasty stretch fabric here. Look how much give it has. It's important that you set the presser foot pressure to very low, because the less the foot presses the fabric down, the less stretching occurs. That helps the fabric lie flat and gives you much nicer seams. And the flatter your fabric, the less you need to iron. Let's place the fabric under the foot. Oh, I need to fold that nicely, otherwise it will look horrible. There, that's it. All the way sewn. It goes under the foot. I lowered the foot pressure. Now, time often is an issue when sewing. You can use this button to make your sewing process quicker. I want the machine to backstitch and cut the threads at the end. This is also indicated in the display. Press the foot pedal and go. With stretchy fabrics, it's also important to use super stretch needles, somewhere between size 90 and 75. Don't use any other needles. Otherwise, the machine will skip stitches and your seams will look all muddled up. Now let the machine sew to the end. There, you need to let your machine know what to do. So press the backstitching button. You don't have to press the foot pedal. The machine does the rest automatically. The machine backstitches and then cuts the threads. All you have to do is lift the foot and there's our result. See, the seam is really smooth. No stretched or wavy areas, nothing. And you can pull this seam. Let me show you. Look, the seam is not going to break. Now, how do you exit the program? You can always get out here by pressing the return button. Just press. The next thing we want to do is to sew a sturdy trouser seam. That is, I'll just tap program number 7 here. I take my piece of fabric. Now imagine, you bend down and your crotch seam breaks. What a horrible thought. With this stitch, that will never happen again. The machine does 3 stitches back and forth in one spot. This is extremely strong and you can really try pulling the seam apart. That won't work. It's a very resilient seam. You can also use this stitch for sewing bags and the like. Let's stop. So the machine also has a very good fully automatic thread tension. It's electronically controlled up in here. You can see that. This looks really great, and when I try pulling it apart, the seam is really sturdy. So what else have we got? We go back. With this machine we have something really special. We have a stitch for top stitching. That's program number 9. With smaller machines you have to put in 2 threads through your needle, or you try using a thick yarn or something similar. It's always quite cumbersome. Here you just press 9 and start sewing. Now you may wonder, the machine starts with very small stitches and all of a sudden it starts racing through. That's alright, and the top stitching you get really looks fantastic. Let's take a look right now. Of course, you could press the cutter button here and cut that off. If you don't want to do that, you can also cut off manually. Raise the needle, pull out the fabric, and here on the side there's a little cutter blade, just as with the other machines. Now that's what I call great top stitching. Really nice, long, clean stitches. Quite impressive. So what else have we got? We go back. Select program number 11, for example. I just want to show that to you quickly. Program number 11 is a patchwork stitch. Let's place the fabric under the foot. For the original quilt stitch, the machine does 3 stitches back and forth in one spot. You can either sew this quilt stitch as we are currently doing here, then the seam will look like this. Bear with me. I stop there. So, cut the threads. Now you see, there's really the original quilt stitch. And now I'll show you our Christmas quilt, and you can see that's how you could also do it. That's how it can look afterwards if you don't use thread in a matching color but bring in a bit of contrast, green and red or something like that. You could also use a different quilt stitch pattern. The machine has several. Let's go back and choose. Well, I want this stitch program, so I have to look a little further. Where is it? That's it. That's the 26. Just press it. With 26, you see, here I can of course adjust the length, the width, also backstitching or backstitching and cutting. But here is something else. When I press this button, I can elongate this stitch. Let's say I want to double the length. And in the live preview, you can immediately see the changes. So I can sew the stitch in normal length and twice elongate it. Now the first seam is normal length. I'll press this button again. I just want to show that to you quickly. I'll sew that here onto my quilting rack. I'll sew half the seam in regular length. Then I stop and change. I want double the length. And we see, now the fabric is fed through much faster, and you also see the difference in the stitching. There, cut the threads. These are forward and backward stitches. With these you can not only adjust the length, but you can set an overall elongation. The machine also has this option. The machine can mirror stitch patterns, but we'll do that later. There you can see it. The regular, shorter stitch here, just as it was on the quilt, but we can also do it big. Now let's continue. Next, let me think what else I could show you. Let's try out program 14. This is suitable for mending tears or holes. I'm sure you've had torn garments before. I'll just tear mine. Use some stable backing underneath your fabric. I wouldn't sew this without some interfacing or stabilizer. Otherwise, all this works for nothing. Now, let's first take a look at the real-time preview. I'm going to set the stitches very short. I'll go down to about 0.4. You see, that's the shortest you can go because the machine starts beeping. And we'll go for full width. The machine can do a width of 7 mm. And now look, this is what our stitch will look like. Let's place the fabric under the foot, and here we go. The machine sews 3 stitches to the right and 3 stitches to the left. The stitch length is nice and short, and so you can mend such a tear quite easily. As I said, the important thing is use some backing, stop and cut. That's it. Here you can see no sign of the torn area anymore. Of course, this is also due to the perfect thread tension, which the machine adjusts fully automatically. What I just showed you is a triple zigzag. You can also use that for overcasting thinner fabrics. What else do you do with the regular zigzag? Let's go back. Now I want to select regular zigzag. That's program number 12. To be honest, I wouldn't use it for finishing or overcasting edges unless you want to put a rolled hem in some really delicate fabric. But the fabric needs to be really thin. You can't do it with a thick fabric. I'll go down to about 0.4. I'll set the width to 4. Keep the thread at the back and hold it slightly. Slightly pull the thread to help feed the fabric. So, now you can sew a perfectly rolled hem. Let's see. There it is. Just fine. The stitching will also show you the fantastic thread tension this machine can do. This length of stitching is enough for demonstrating. We have to go really close with the camera. The stitching is just perfect. See, there's nothing to complain. Also on the wrong side it looks fine. I'm very pleased with it. Now let's exit this menu. Zigzags done. Oh, now I've gone back completely. Doesn't matter. I'll just press this button, then I can continue browsing. The next thing we have is overlocking. You see, the machine indicates an overlock stitch. It needs presser foot C. I've got that somewhere. There it is. Press the black lever at the back. The foot falls off. This is the snap-on closure. Place the foot under the shank and just pull down the lever. The foot engages with the shank. Now I need a piece of fabric. I'll use a stretchy fabric for this. This foot has a bar in the middle that reduces the upper thread tension. And here's a guiding edge so that you always position your fabric correctly. Then you can start. Nothing can go wrong. Now, when sewing stretchy fabrics, always remember, reduce the presser foot pressure. This helps keep the fabric flat. Alright, cut the threads. The overlock seam has one advantage. It actually is 3 steps in one. With this option, you sew your layers together and finish the edges at the same time. Previously, the first step was finishing the edge of one layer. The second step was finishing the edge of the second layer, and finally you had to sew them together. These 3 steps are completed in this one operation. And when you turn it around, let's be honest, it looks great, doesn't it? Now, there's another thing with this machine. Because it's equipped with a really high-quality electronic system, you can also do overlocking with foot A. But for that, program 17 isn't suitable. I have to exit the menu. I'll use the round overlock stitch with foot A. That's program number 22. Programs 18, 19 and also 21 are different types of overlock stitches that you can use depending on your fabric. But 22 is a great thing. You can use your regular foot A. You choose the program and then we'll use the stitch on the other side for comparison. A round overlock stitch really has the advantage that it works perfectly even in extremely complicated fabrics. This is a little more complex, which means that the machine has to work a little longer. But well, as long as the machine does the work, that's fine with me. And the result is great. Just take a look. The round overlock stitch, just really perfectly done here. The machine really does sew circles in there all the time. And the fabric is not stretched or distorted at all. This is something I can highly recommend. But as I said, please always select the overlock stitch depending on the fabric that you are using. Let's continue. Then the next thing I want to show you is applique work. Applique stitch is program number 30. Access the 30 automatically. I've already prepared something. So this is my base fabric and this is the piece that goes onto the base fabric. Important, lower the presser foot pressure completely to make sure that the fabrics can be easily moved. I did that and now I can sew on this circle with my applique stitch. Not too fast, you see, works just fine. Because the sewing pressure is very low, I can move the fabric very easily. The machine always sews to the right and then reaches over to the left once. It looks like this hand-applique blanket stitch. Now you could also do this with a normal zigzag, but it's not as nice. This one is a bit more elaborate, a bit more delicate, and of course looks much nicer. You see, it's no big deal. Now, when you've reached the end, cut the threads and done. Now take a closer look. Although I only guided with one hand, I hit the edge perfectly even. That's not a problem. Of course, this is only possible because I can easily move the fabric under the presser foot, which does not have so much contact pressure. Next, I want to show you how to sew a buttonhole with this machine. The machine comes with a total of 13 buttonhole patterns. We'll start easily with number 50. This is the normal standard buttonhole. The buttonhole is displayed in the live preview, and here it is also indicated that we need to use presser foot F. I open my slide-on table. I'll put the other presser feet aside. And there's the buttonhole foot. That's foot F. I'll slide it open, and now I have to place my button in this opening at the back. The button goes in here at the back. Once the button is in here, the machine can sense what size the buttonhole needs to be sewn. I'll remove the previous foot, press the black button slightly upwards. The foot falls off. I always recommend pulling the thread through the foot before positioning it under the shank. As I said, it's a snap-on foot, just down and back up. Now we are almost ready to go. Just one more thing, as this is really important. There's a lever back here. You have to pull it down. I'll show you that again. Here in front is the threader, and the lever is located behind the threader. It's required because the sliding buttonhole foot is moved against the probe. Upon contact, the machine receives an impulse to switch to the other stitching line. Now let's put the fabric under there. All you need to know is where you want the beginning of the buttonhole to be. There are red marking lines on the foot. You can lower the needle there if you pinned or marked the position, then you know exactly where to start. Now just press the foot pedal, the machine will do the rest. The tension is set automatically and the length of the buttonhole too. Both stitching lines are sewn in the same direction, which means the stitching looks the same on both sides, really neat and uniform. And the machine also stops and backstitches at the end. Buttonholes are always completely backstitched. So you only have to press the cutter button if you have not already done so or pre-programmed it. So there you have it. Now let's take a closer look and you see a great buttonhole. Now let's do a keyhole-shaped one, as they are used in jackets and blazers, for example. This is program number 52. It works the same way. Put the fabric under the foot, lower it and start. You don't have to do anything else at all. Previously, this was much more complicated. With the modern electronic machines, it's really easy. As you all know, neat buttonholes are very important as they are always visible in a garment. And you'll see the rounded section is also perfectly even. The machine backstitches and stops. Cut the threads and that's it. The machine even emits an acoustic signal. Look, a perfect keyhole shape and both stitching lines sewn in the same direction. What else can we do with the presser foot? I'll leave this one on. With this foot you can also do darning or sew number 63, a bar tag for trouser pockets. But I want to show you number 64, a darning program. That was here. Now remember I mended a tier before. It looked like this. Now if you have holes in your garment, you can use the darning program for that. I'll place it next to the mended tier. The machine stitches straight lines. It does this back and forth, just as in manual darning. Then it goes over the entire stitching with a zigzag stitch. You can close every hole in this way. I left the button in the back of the sliding foot. The size of this darning program results from the distance that you slide open the foot. I opted for about 1.5 centimeters, but you could also use a larger size. This program is also backstitched automatically at the end. Cut the threads and that's it. You see, that was the mending program, and with this one you can do darning. You can see the straight corners, there's nothing crooked or uneven. It looks great, doesn't it? You could even do that in visible areas of your garment. Looks good too. If you can sew buttonholes, you must also be able to sew on buttons. We take the whole thing out. Then you need to choose the program for sewing on buttons. That's number 49. The machine indicates the required foot again. Since this is a color display, you can really see it. It's easy to find. Change the foot. It goes down here. Lower and raise the shank. Now I need a piece of fabric where the button goes on. Which one shall I use? I'll take the one with the top stitching. I'm feeling thrift today. I'm going to recycle a used piece of fabric. Place everything under the foot. Look, just like that in the middle. But please do me a favor, please try it by hand first. You see, the needle must hit the holes. That's fine. Just so, and cut the threads. This causes the needle to come up automatically. Take it out and done. Cut this one as well. You can see how neat the stitching is on the wrong side. No knots or anything. One thing that you should do, tie the thread tails to secure them. Now let's take a closer look at the machine's decorative stitch programs. Press the Home button. This takes you to the basic menu of the machine. Now you have to access the decorative stitches. Just press the button. This machine comes with two new functions that we have not had before in W6 WERTARBEIT machines, namely elongating and mirroring stitches. Elongate means to lengthen. I'll access this menu. I want to sew program number 92. That is arches. Now you could browse forward through all the pages, but you can also browse backwards. That means one page back and another one, and there's number 92. Press it. Now the first stitch is selected. When you press the button with the flower and tools icon, you access the stitch settings. First of all, I'd like the stitch to be nice and narrow. 0.5 is fine. Done. That's all we do. How do I get my next stitch behind that? I'm going back out here and I'm going to press 92 again. Then I have the next program and I can set that too. I'll make it narrower again at 0.4. But now I want it 5 times longer. Look, 2, 3, 4 times, up to 5 times is possible. So you can elongate stitches up to 5 times, and up here is the mirroring option. Now the arch opens to the left, but I want it the other way around. I press this and that's set. Also in this menu, the required foot is indicated, just as with the utility stitches. The machine asks for presser foot B. Of course, the button foot is not suitable. That needs to go. Foot B goes under there. Snap, no problem. So now we are all set. We have presser foot B, we have our stitches programmed. Now let's take a closer look at what we're going to sew. So I go back a step and another one, and I can press the magnifying glass to get the real-time preview. Now I have a large arch elongated 5 times and a regular one, and they open in opposite directions because I mirrored one. Now let's sew this. Position your fabric and start. 5-fold elongation is really long, and then we have the shorter one, which is mirrored. Stop and cut the threads. Now let's take a look. You can see this one faces up and is 5 times the length of the regular pattern. And this is the regular one, just mirrored. One faces up and one down. That's elongating and mirroring using the example of stitch number 92. This machine also comes with 3 types of lettering stitches. They can also be optionally combined with the various decorative stitches. First, I need to delete what I've set so far. So I press this button twice to make sure all the settings are cleared. Then the Home button. From here I access the decorative stitches. I press the button. I opted for number 104. Browse back a page. There's a bow stitch. Now I want to write the name Anne 3 times, but in 3 different fonts. For that I press the Home button. Access the lettering stitches, the first of the 3 fonts we have. So I start with regular print letters. Press it. Uppercase A. Then I need lowercase letters. Press this button. Now I need an N and another one. The M is the last letter on this page, so I browse forward. N, N. Browse back for the E. That is N set. After that, I want a space, so the words are not stitched too close together. I go back there, where I can find special characters and the space button. I press Home again. Then decorative stitches, this time in cursive font, and the same steps again. Uppercase A, lowercase letters, once forward, N, N, once back, E. So I've got Anne. Back to the special characters. Space. Back to Home. This time double-stitched font, also a nice lettering stitch. Uppercase A, lowercase letters, once forward to the N. Then to lowercase n's, browse back, and the E. Now I need a space again. Access the special characters and press space. Now at the end, I just want another bow. Back to Home. Access the decorative stitches to get to the bow. I browse back a page so I don't have to plough through all the programs. Then choose 104 and done. Now I can start sewing. Let's do that. Just position the fabric and start. Everything that the machine has finished sewing will disappear in the preview. So when the bow has been sewn, it will no longer be visible in the display. The stitches you see at the top are the ones that are currently being processed. So the bow is in progress. We are advancing slowly. It will soon be done. The bow is finished and the machine indicates, yes, the bow is finished. It's moving up along the patterns. We are getting there, slowly but surely. Now the letters are stitched faster than the bow. Alright, cut the threads. Take out the fabric. The most important thing you need to do here is cut the string threads. With these cursive letters you need to trim all this. Let's do that. See, all this needs to go. Because if you trim and clean your stitching, it will look fantastic. Of course, I'm not going to do all this in detail. You don't have to watch me doing that for hours on end. But I've prepared a sample beforehand and you can see what the finished result looks like. See. You always need to trim at the end, otherwise you'll have those string threads in there. They will deteriorate your result. Now with everything trimmed, you have the 3 different fonts and the 2 bows at the beginning and the end. Let me show you a really cute stitch pattern. That's number 65, a little dog. Let's rotate and mirror that in all directions. So I browse forward to 65. There's number 65. It's a dog. Let's use that. It's nice. Let's go back. No, I'll choose another dog. So for the second dog, I want to change some settings. Here you can change the length and width, and here the thread tension. Now here's the interesting thing. This is the regular dog stitch. Let me mirror it. Done. Let's go back. Then I want another dog. Now let's mirror the dog and turn it upside down. So I access the settings, press rotating, mirroring, and now I press once, twice. You see the lower left corner highlighted. I go back. I need another dog, number 65. Access the settings menu and the rotating mirroring. Now this time I press once, twice, 3 times. Fine. I go back. Please don't be disappointed if you see 4 equal dogs. What can you do about this? I go back, I press the magnifying glass. This is the preview. Now you only see 3 dogs. There, you can scroll up and down. There are more dogs here. See? They are all there. If the image is larger than the preview bar, you can scroll up and down. There you see all 4 dogs in all 4 directions. The regular dog, the dog upside down facing left, upside down facing right, and regular facing left. That's fine. Now let's delete our dogs. That means we have to access the edit program. Now here you have an eraser. Press and hold the eraser until all dogs are deleted. Now with this machine you can also save designs. That means we pick something nice to save now. I press home. Let's use a nice letter. We access the letters. I want a W. Where's my W? There's my W. See, there are numbers as well. And there are special characters, including umlauts. There's an Ü and Ö. It's all there. We'll go on further. Now we choose number 6. There is W6. I want to save W6. There's the eraser that I just showed you. And here's saving. Just press the button. The machine has 4 permanent memory locations. If you save something there and switch off the machine, it remains in the memory. First you need to select a memory location, no matter which of the 4 you take. Choose one, then it's highlighted, and down here you can call up the memory, save and delete. Now you just want to save your settings. There, it's permanently saved and the file is named as the stitches you set. Great. Now you can delete the stitches from the settings. Then it's gone here. You can access straight stitch via the quick select button. You can also turn off the machine. It's also not an issue. The next morning you turn your machine back on and in the basic menu you have the utility stitches, decorative stitches and letters, and there's the memory. Just press it. There's the W6. Select it. Nothing's happening yet. You could also delete it, but now I press Open Memory. There's the W6 and then you can sew that. It's not a problem. Now, how can I get rid of this? If I want to clear my memory locations, I select the memory, then the memory location. If you can call up a memory, you can also clear it. Now you tell the machine to place the program into the paper basket. It will display a prompt that you need to confirm. When you press the check mark, the memory is cleared and you can save something new. So you have 4 permanent memory locations. So ladies and gentlemen, with this machine you can also do quilting work. Let's do something special. Let's quilt a pebble. What do I need for that? First, I need my free motion quilting foot. This is supplied with the machine. I change this presser foot by unscrewing the screw. That means that in this case the presser foot holder has to be removed to attach the free motion quilting foot. Please screw it tight and make sure that it's attached correctly. This means that the arm of the foot is above the needle mounting screw. Next, I'm taking off my slide-on table. That's no longer necessary. And here is the feed dog lowering switch. See, this is the feed dog. I shift the switch and the feed dog is lowered. Now this is really great. The machine comes with a fantastic range of equipment. This is our quilting table. Let me demonstrate this. This quilting table can be adjusted in all 4 corners. Let me show you. You can adjust it so that it firmly rests on your sewing table and doesn't wobble or rattle. Slide it on. This is the quilting table. Now you have a really nice big support surface and it provides strain relief for large quilts. As a last step, I just need to select straight stitch. The feed dog is lowered. I'll place my fabric and now I quilt pebbles. Take a look. I can guide my fabric freely. Now it depends on what you want to make. I made a little coffee coaster here, just as an example. If I'd finished this, I could also turn it into a coffee coaster. You could design your quilt like this, a letter K. These are the pebbles. They are stitched 2 or 3 times. That's not a problem. You can get incredibly creative with this machine, no question about it. Now let's do something else. That is, we simply dismantle our quilting table. You can fold it up like this and put it away. Now I need to bring up the feed dog. To do this, I first have to disassemble my presser foot. We don't need it now if we don't want to do free motion quilting. So I assemble my regular presser foot holder again. I can lift it a little. I need to position it correctly. Come here. Then I just have to screw it tight. That's not a problem. Tighten it lightly with the screwdriver. Got it. Now the feed dog is still lowered. I press the switch. Nothing happens. The feed dog won't come up. Please hold the thread a little and turn once, twice, 3 times. Normally it should be up after the first time, but feel free to play it safe. Pull the thread ends out, cut them off, and you'll see the feed dog is up. The 7-segment feed dog is up again. It is the reason why the machine feeds the fabric so well. For the next thing, let me just turn the machine a little so you can see better. I want to sew program 97. For this we have included a cording foot with the machine. You can insert a cord here and it's automatically sewn in the right position. I press home. I access the decorative stitches. There are our decorative stitches. I need to delete the W6 of course. I don't want that there. Now let's look for 97. There it is. Of course you can adjust the settings for 97. First of all, I want the stitches to be short with a length of 0.4 and I want to elongate the pattern to make it really big. Change the foot. The program is set. We are using triple elongation. The stitch length is nice and short. This is my fabric. Now I need a piece of cord. The cord must be pulled into the foot here in the far left groove. This foot has 3 grooves, so you could also use 3 cords. For the stitch I selected, you can only use 2 cords. Now the other cord goes into the far right groove. The middle one remains empty. Position the fabric and you can start sewing. Nothing can go wrong. The rest is done by the foot. The zigzag is stitched exactly over the cords. I chose the length so that the machine reaches the end of the cords. This is a nice option also for decorating bags and the like. Just guide the cords a little to keep them straight. Now that's finished and this is what it looks like. Let's clear the stitch pattern. Press the eraser. Let's go back to straight stitch because I want to show you another thing. This is an excellent hemming foot here that is also included with the machine. Install it just like the other feet. Place the foot under the shank. As I said, you just need the normal straight stitch for this, nothing special. Then slightly roll your fabric here at the side so that you can insert it into this coil. And then you can start sewing. There it is. You see, our feet are really high quality. All stitching options work without any further problems. The fabric must precisely slide in there, and in the coil it is folded over. You'll soon see the result. And you see, a perfect finish with our hemming foot. You can't sew a narrower hem. And you noticed it was not at all complicated. Just use the right foot, set straight stitch and go. At the end we want to tidy up the workplace and stow the machine. I recommend install the regular presser foot. To keep your sewing machine in proper working order for a long time, just put a piece of fabric underneath and lower the foot. Then the spring is released. Switch off the machine. Very important here, unplug it. Also install the sliding table. Why did I pull the plug now? That's really important. A lot of people leave the plug in and then wrap the cable around the machine a couple of times. That wouldn't be any good. This machine is supplied with a hard case. This means you can store this machine shockproof. You can also put the instruction manual in the storage compartment of the case. Now, if you have to go to a sewing class where you need to bring your own machine, you can optionally buy a trolley from W6. It needs to be purchased separately, and I'd like to show it to you. You open it. There's a little bag in here. This bag is intended for machines that come without a hard case. But we made the trolley big enough for the machine to go with the hard case. Just close the zipper and you can pull it along. That's no problem at all. Now, if you forget to bring along your foot pedal, it's not a big deal. The W6 sewing machine is an electronic sewing machine, and just like all other electronic sewing machines from W6, it can sew with or without the foot pedal. So you can also operate it by hand and then set the sewing speed manually. Then you can sit up straight.